chaplain for Parliament, correct? Okay. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the studios of Starr FM, and you're welcome to the Morning Star.
Thank you very much, Nadide.
Good morning.
Good morning. I know that we're here to talk about the aftermath of, slavery and slave trade. I have a lot of questions to ask you on that. But then again, I have to start off from home at the moment, and us being in an electioneering year, just to pick your thoughts a little bit on, the atmosphere that we are currently experiencing. One of the main issues on the burner at the moment is the voters register, the credibility of the voters register. The opposition has been quite vociferous in terms of their concerns. They are pointing to a series of discrepancies, among others, and calling for a forensic audit. They say that the register in its current state is not fit for purpose, and if it used in this form could breed chaos. As the Catholic Bishops' Conference, what do you make of these concerns that are coming up, especially in relation to the voters register?
Well, it happens to be fortuitous that just today the Catholic Bishops' Conference has released a communique on the elections, and has addressed the various constituents of our country, not least the political parties and the Electoral Commission. And to the Electoral Commission, the conference has advised that they go about their business with every integrity and professionalism that this deserves, because anything that smacks of partiality will mar the integrity of the electoral process. And so because of that, the Catholic Bishop Conference trusts that all stakeholders, at this time we're talking about the political parties and the Electoral Commission, will work together. We're hoping that we'll work together to make sure that whatever concerns that there are addressed. So if the opposition has raised concerns, it is only fair that they are addressed. I personally do not have the register with me, so I'm unable to say whether the concerns are valid or not. But if the concerns have been raised, they must be treated as issues of national interest.
Okay.
And therefore, whatever it takes to make sure that the fears of people are allayed on the matter is done. So, well, if concerns have been raised, let us find the answers. I'm sure the Electoral Commission is more than capable of giving the answers. So we will wait.
And how crucial is the role of the Electoral Commission in this, especially when we're going for an election? Recently the Commission said that it is not solely responsible for how things will pan out during the election. Others have said that, you're a pivot around which everything literally evolves. So what role is the Electoral Commission going to play in how things unfold during, after, and before the elections, especially when it comes to the peace of the country?
Well, the Electoral Commission is a very, very key stakeholder in this process. But it's also true that they are not the only key stakeholders. Because, mind you, this is an exercise of the whole nation. And so it is not just the political parties who must call the shots. It is not only the Electoral Commission that must call the shot. In fact, the Constitution of our nation tells us that the sovereignty of our nation lies in the people.
Okay.
And so the conversation has to be a bit broader beyond just the Electoral Commission, which is a very key stakeholder, and the political parties, and therefore bring the conversation to the public space and let the general public in whom resides sovereignty also have a say. So all of us have a stake in this public discourse. So yes, the Electoral Commission is a very key stakeholder, and so are the political parties, but they are not the only ones. All of us have to have a say.
I have another question to ask you, but I'll come back after I've spoken to George. I didn't... George, this is a very general question. What crucial role does, for instance, justice play going into an election. A lot of the times people say that there's a lot of focus on peace, peace, peace. But when people feel that they are not being justly treated, it equally, has a direct impact on the peace of the country. What do you say?
Well, justice is key. It's a fundament for the society, and the attitude which belongs to justice is fairness, a fair attitude of behaving, and justice provides a mutual, I would say, basement of mutual confidence. This is really important because we need a framework of relationships, even if we have to deal, especially if we have to deal with conflicts, we need a sort of a mutual confidence so that we will be safe. And the framework for that is provided by justice. We know very well, justice will never be 100%. But if we share this goal, so then we know we are together on the same way, and then we can relate in a way which is necessary to develop a democratic country.
All right. I said I had another question for you, but I'll reserve when we are done with the conversation on the workshop. Then, if there's time, I would ask you that.
Right.
So, tell us a bit more about this workshop in question, dealing with slavery and the aftermath of it.
Okay. Well, this conference is a result of a collaboration between the German Commission for Justice and Peace, also an organization within the Catholic Church,
Okay.
and the Directorate of Governance, Justice and Peace of the Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference, having studied the problem and the scar, the rather traumatic and toxic history of colonialism and slavery and slave trade, the church making an introspection, seeing its bit in all of this dark history, and wanting to be a part of the solution of healing. I must be honest straight away to say that the initiative for this conference or workshop was begun by our German counterparts,
Okay.
who in their own work then thought that it was important to go back to the basics, to see where the injustices and the inhumanity was meted out by humanity to part of itself in the past. So, and that was from there that this initiative was born. And it's been a little over a year in the making.
Okay.
But yes, from Wednesday, the 11th of this month to the 17th, we're bringing people across the pond, from America, from the Americas, from Europe, from various parts of Africa, to come and have this conversation.
Okay.
And no matter how difficult it is, but also to find solutions to contribute to healing our common humanity, which is sadly very scarred by this dark history of slavery and slave trade.
Now, George, how do you view the responsibility of the Church and European nations in acknowledging and addressing their roles in the history of slavery and slave trade?
Well, I guess these are two questions. The European states, also we have to divide the European states. My Polish neighbors, they would say, we do not have deal with that because we were colonized by you anyway, the Germans and the Russians, so don't put your responsibility on us. So you see, there is also a conflict within Europe, so there are different layers of responsibility. Nevertheless, the European states have, especially for the 17th and 18th century, a very, very important role to play in this. And until today, they do not take the responsibility in an appropriate way. We have to say that. If I see it rightly, there are not too many museums on slave trade and slavery in Europe. Well, actually, this also goes for other parts of the world.
Yes, true.
So, and this is, well, something like a dark spot. We have to do something about that because we cannot accept this fact. But I do not like to omit the question about the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church, and this is painful being a Catholic, but we have to admit that we have been part of the problem.
Yeah.
We have been part of it. Of course, slave trade and always has been questioned. There always have been voices within the church against it, but they have been usually outlined, put aside, and sometimes really harshly punished. So we have these, I would say, matters of discourse we can rely on, and we have to honor them. And it reminds us to give our ears also to those we see as dissidents today. So, well, this is an exercise in listening. We have to do something. We have the problem in the family, because we are all together, coming from the slaveholder countries, the slave trader countries, and those who have been slaves. Well, none of us is connected with the business directly, but all of us are sitting now on this aftermath, and we have to do something together. And what we are going to do is, as an antidote against the impact of violence, to bring people together as a symbol. Because violence leads always to the situation that people divide. Everybody is going into his or her circle where they feel safe and not speaking with the others, rather speaking about the others. Bringing people together, standing together on the very bloody ground of Elmina and other places, this is a symbol in itself of reunification, of honesty, and then, well, trying to make an assessment. As humble, as small it is, as late it is, but what can we do?
Yeah.
We can do what we can do now, and we take our responsibility.
And to a question I asked earlier, why now? It's been many years.
Yes.
And like George was saying, a lot of the times each party would like to sweep it under the carpet or downplay the role they played in this unfortunate, inhumane activity. Why now?
Why now, I think, is a very, very relevant and valid question. Why now? Because the wounds are not healed. Why now? Because we feel that the conversation has not been properly and adequately had.
Okay.
Even though already in the 19th century, serious steps were being taken by the church to deal with this scourge, we feel that the conversation still needs a more honest and mature approach. So the now is, on one hand, because of this fact that it hasn't been fully dealt with, but also because now we feel that those of us who are living now have a role to play in this healing process. And now it's also because it is the opportunity to collaborate with our friends, across the pond, some of whom have, like Dr. Yorg and others, like-minded people who have seen the need for this healing and this frank acknowledgement of our part in this sad and dark history, but also to our desire and ability to contribute to concretely doing something to help the healing process. So that is the amania for now.
And for you as an individual, when you think about, and I think both of you recognize that there's a dark spot where there's a role the church also played in this. There are many stories of how there were churches on top of the castles, on the forts, and then there were slaves in the dungeons and being kept in very inhumane situations. How do you reconcile that? I mean, even picturing that there are people praying on top, and then at the base there are people, being maltreated. How do you reconcile that?
Well, I'm from Elmina, as it happens. So, so this has a rather poignant, implication for me. As we drove here, I was telling Dr. Yorg that my late father, specifically because of the pain associated with this, would not discuss the matter because of the pain that it brought him. Because of course he wasn't there when it happened, but the story was fresher in his memory than it would be to me.
I mean, you are being told he witnessed it.
Exactly. So and as a Catholic and as a priest, that picture makes a very, very uncomfortable feeling and relating to, because here is a church believing in the inviolable dignity of the human person, the fact that we are all equal before God in dignity and all of that, and yet in our past, serious mistakes of decision and indecision or action or inactions were made, and which contributed in whatever way they did to this rather sad history. So yes, it calls for me soul searching. It calls for an honest, introspection and just saying that well it has happened. Very little we can do to change what has happened, but there's quite a lot we can do to heal going forward. And I think that is the point of this exercise and what the church wants to do.
And George, you don't think we've healed?
Well, who is we?
I mean,
all
for
of
mostly
us.
the victims.
Yeah.
For mostly the victims. There's a book by Esther Amma. It's emotional justice, and she delves into this issue with regard to colonialism and the effect it has had on the people of Africa, especially, and the fact that a lot of the people have been rushed to feel like it's okay, you've moved on. This is something in the past. So yeah.
No, I fully agree. We don't have healed, but the impact of this particular violence of slave trade is not just on the Africans.
Yeah.
It's also on the Europeans. And while, racism developed during the slave trade, it is some sort of self-sedation by making this distinction. So we have to overcome that.
Yeah.
And
to one party being superior to the other.
Exactly. So to overcome that, we have to face the full story. And to get the full flavor of being a human being. Yeah. So this is also, I will call it, from the perpetrator societies, which also will try help us to heal with this, to live with this history. We have to do these things. We have to work against racism. But beside the healing, the first thing is showing respect to the dead ones and the victims, even if they are not any longer alive. Even if they are buried since centuries, we have to show respect to them, because there is still a connection, there is still something open, and maybe this is very religious, I think so it is, but this is a power, this is really a power. And then the healing for the people today is the second part of it, but this is connected.
Okay. What are your thoughts on collaborations? Or is it necessary? Is there a need for collaboration between the religious bodies and the various governmental bodies to ensure that we see through this initiative?
Well, in this moment, we first tried to bring together people, as Father said, from different parts of the world. Okay. So this multi-perspective approach. Of course, our foreign ministry is informed, and our ambassador from Germany will also be part of the workshop for a certain time. This is good. This is really good. Okay. But for the very beginning, I guess the focus point has to be to bring together people from such different backgrounds. This is challenging. This is really challenging. Okay. We have different feelings, different ways of dealing with it. There is a lot of field for misunderstanding. Yeah. I love that. This makes it really interesting. But of course, in the longer run, we have to talk with the state, and we have to cooperate with the state on these issues as well. But it's not just the state.
Okay. You talked about, a lot of maybe information, misinformation, or information overload all being around. What are you doing in terms of sensitization to bring more light to this issue and bring better understanding to this issue? You can answer a bit of it, and then you would also answer a bit of it.
Yeah. Well, actually, in the case of our workshop there, the first decision has been made to go to Elmina, to the very spot. This is symbolical, but it's also very concrete.
More like ground zero.
Yes, so places matter. We made this experience in our work in the field of healing and reconciliation, also in other places. So Auschwitz, I'm doing such a workshop every year in Auschwitz since 15 years. So places matter. They have something. We bring people together. So what has been divided by violence can be united by goodwill and by the real and honest readiness to face the different perceptions. Okay. then of course we will speak about it, as we are doing in this moment, to spread it a little bit, but to make it clear. This is not just a propaganda sheet we have to work through. This is a learning process. We try to find out. So we do not know now what will come after that. We will sit together on the background of the new experiences to be made in the coming week, and then we will say, okay, this is what will be our next steps.
Oh, okay. Do you have anything to add?
Well, I think that, such conferences and workshops are part of the medium by which we sensitize and then we teach.
Shed more light on the issue.
Exactly. But I think that beyond that, we ought to make this part of our regular, curricula for people to study it.
Yeah.
Because you see, if people do not know where they are coming from, it will be difficult to appreciate where they are going.
That's true.
So I think that we ought to be able to make it part of our regular, curriculum, so that from a very young age, we have a more objective, a more rounded understanding of the history, with all its pain and all its disappointment, so that we can look forward in hope to a better one, and to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Okay. And so when is the workshop happening?
It is happening starting already on Wednesday.
Okay.
Wednesday afternoon is the opening ceremony, with all the pomp and pageantry that it deserves, with the chiefs and then bishops and participants across the globe. And then it runs in workshops till the 16th when it finishes. And then by the 17th, we shall say goodbye to our friends who visited. So it's a 1 week intensive engagement on the matter, to look both at the history and then the way forward, how to arrest the current manifestations of this rather dark part of our history. Because in fact, as you might know this more than maybe myself, we still have modern slavery going on and human trafficking.
Yeah.
So our effort is to deal with the past, but also to deal with the present, and then to make sure that the future is one where the dignity of the human person is not sacrificed for anything at all.
For anything at all. Okay. Do you have anything else to add? Will everything take place in Elmina?
Everything will be in Elmina,
And
at the Elmina Castle.
And Großfriedrichsburg.
Yes, we'll go to a Princess Town.
Okay.
Princess Town in the western region. We'll spend a day there.
Okay.
Yes.
Does it come at a cost?
Pardon?
Does it come at a cost? Do people have to pay?
No, they are invited.
Yes.
Oh.
People are invited.
Is it residential?
Yes, residential
Yeah.
for the participants
Okay.
who have been invited to do the study.
Okay.
But for those who want to join, that it's not residential.
Okay. And for the participants, have they already been chosen?
They have been chosen.
So there was, okay.
Yes, they have been chosen because strategically,
Okay.
because they are coming from places in Africa or
So
in
different
Americas.
parts of the world.
Yes, with links to slavery
Okay.
and slave trade in some way, so that we'll share our experiences, but also to have some reflection
Okay.
on the past, and to sort of launch ourselves into a future where we're dealing with each other with respect, and to take it from you, and with justice.
Yes. It's very crucial. Justice
Yes.
is very important. George, I'll give you the final word.
Well, first of all, thank you, Father Michael, for this real interesting joint venture that we are really working together, because this reuniting is meaningful. And thank you to Ghana for hosting us here, so that we can do that, and maybe that we can contribute for the sake of the others. Thank you very much.
Well, it's our pleasure and duty.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for gracing our studios. It's been a very insightful conversation.
Thank you,
I have a lot
Madide.
more questions to ask, but time will only allow for this one.
Thank
So
you. You've been
thank
kind
you.
already.
Thank you, and have a wonderful day.
You too.
All right. This is still the Morning Star here on Star 103.5 FM.